The kickback through the steering wheel. I mean, these cars are hard work to drive. Look at that fight. Down to second gear. Balancing the throttle. He doesn't want to get too much of a slide here or it'll ruin his tires. He's just delicately holding that throttle. Careful here too. And back past the start-finish straight. Look how tightly he's cramped in that cockpit. You can see why he needs that cutout in the steering wheel. You see how his steering wheel's got that inverted V to give a bit of leg space there.
As a matter of fact, we noticed on Martin Donnelly's car, Martin Donnelly does not use the cutout steering wheel. He uses a full rounded steering wheel. Derek Warwick, on the other hand, is one of the larger Grand Prix drivers, which these days are becoming a bit of a rarity.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Derek has actually slimmed down quite a lot, but he's still not as small as Donnelly. And that allows Donnelly to run a conventional sort of wheel there. There we're looking at the Ferrari. We were talking about the suspension struts on the Benetton, those angling inward struts known as push rods, transferring the wheel movement to the dampers. If we get a chance to see the front of a McLaren, they go about it a different way. They use pull rods, which means they angle inwards and downwards. See if you can spot the difference. The dampers in the McLaren, there we go. You can just see those angling inwards and downwards struts, pull rods on the McLaren. Now Boots is coming in. Let's go to John in the pits.
Thierry Boutsen, the Belgian driver, is coming up the pit lane. McLaren boys have moved out of the way, and the Williams team is ready. A little bit less RPM with Thierry, but trying to keep the engine very much alive. 4 tires off and 4 tires back on. A little bit of trouble with the left rear. They had to grab another wheel nut there. Boutsen looking in that left rear mirror saying, come on, fellas, I'm dying in here. Get me back out there. Thierry Boutsen, this is agonizing to him. You can imagine just doing 200 miles an hour and now being absolutely dead stop. A big, big problem on the left rear. Now we have the right brakes smoking very hard. Thierry Boutsen so frustrated that he almost killed the engine and leaving the pit lane. Again, a lot of rubber on these tires and some blistering on the corners. Not using them up, but he's back on the circuit.
And in fact, Williams has had some problem all season long with their pit stops. They tried practicing some of the pit stops. They have even been looking at redesigning the wheel nut to use less threads, thinking that perhaps that might be a problem. They were looking at some of the other teams comparing their wheel nuts with, say, for example, Ferrari's, who does indeed use less threads, thinking that that might be the problem. But as we just saw moments ago, they have not solved their problem. And as we also saw moments ago, Alessandro Nannini is taking a few of these corners a little on the wide side.
Yeah, Nannini is still obviously pushing very hard there. Senna's closed the gap a little bit, but he's still hardly all over that Benetton. Perhaps worth a while just to reflect at some of the activities down the rest of the field. We've got Nannini in the lead, Senna in second place, Berger third, Prost is fourth. And
Prost is quite a ways back because it's just that second or so between Senna and Nannini, then about 6 seconds back to Berger. Alain Prost is another 16 seconds back. Then Riccardo Patrese is another 10 seconds back behind him. Thierry Boutsen was indeed following right behind Patrese up until that pit stop. But now that he has made his stop, he will drop back in the field just a tad.
Yeah, Boutsen's going to be very annoyed about that. I mean, the last thing you want to have to do is to have another 10 or 15 seconds worth of penalties to try and make up from a slow pit stop, and that was slow.
And here's that little off-course excursion. There you see the sparks flying up, but he's been going wide, and a few moments ago, there you see it, he even gets to the point that he's kicking up the dust, and that is the last place you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, that looks more spectacular than it really is problematic. The cars are designed, they've got skid blocks underneath, they're designed to take a bit of bashing around. They don't want to do it too much, but that's probably not going to cause any great problem.
The problem is getting onto that dirt, and at what point do you begin to lose that traction? Fortunately, he's able to hold on and make it all the way through. Back aboard with Derek Warwick as he continues about 2/3 of the way through the German Grand Prix.
If you love cars, you'll love Auto Week, the news weekly of motoring. Every week, Auto Week puts you inside the world's most exciting cars. GTs, sports sedans, collector cars, 4x4s, front drivers. Auto Week makes you an insider with industry news, personality profiles, old cars, columnists, the best classified anywhere. And nobody covers racing like Auto Week. You get the fastest coverage of Formula One, sports cars, stockers, Indy cars. It's all in Auto Week, the news weekly of motoring every week. Call 1-800-828-4100 to get a full year of Auto Week at our special discount price. Just $19.95 for 52 issues, only 38 cents a week. You'll save 80% off the newsstand price. Call 1-800-828-4100. Let Auto Week put you in the driver's seat every week.
Call now and you can have 13 weeks of the Wall Street Journal and this valuable 120-page guide to understanding money and markets. That's 13 weeks of the journal for the news and ideas you need every business day. And this guide free, which tells you everything you want to know about money and markets, now for only $34. Call toll-free 800-832-8700. Today's Wall Street Journal. Faster, tougher, smarter. Call 800-832-8700 now.
Live, top-ranked boxing on ESPN. The place where fighters have stepped into the ring as unknowns, made the right connections, and emerged as champions.
You gotta knock them out to win this, all right?
Junior welterweight knockout artists Terrell Brazier and Anthony Stevens slug it out in a night of pure punishment. Budweiser presents Top Rank Boxing, Thursday night at 9 Eastern, live on ESPN.
Well, the boats on the River Neckar and at the tiny village of Ebersbach are quiet today. That's because no one's there. They're all here at Hockenheim for the race, the German Grand Prix. ESPN's presentation of this race today is brought to you by the Yokohama Tire Corporation, one of the fastest growing tire companies in the United States. And by Alpine Car Audio Systems and your authorized Alpine dealer. Alpine, standard equipment in every Lamborghini made. Well, we're a little over two-thirds of the way through this race, going very, very quickly. Despite the accident on the first lap, there was no delay, and as we mentioned before, this is a fast circuit. It is one of the three fastest circuits that the Formula One world will go through all day.
Which is something that we've just seen, is that Thierry Boutsen, back on the track now, running in 9th place, has set a new fastest race lap of 45.6, at least half a second under anything that's yet come. So clearly, Boutsen has very much got the bit between his teeth there. Let's just hope, for his sake, that in being clearly pretty aggressive, he's not taking valuable life out of those tyres earlier on that he may end up regretting later on. Back with the leader, back with Nannini. Senna still very much in the tow there, and as the race is shaping up, where 32 laps gone out of 45, there's a pretty disgruntled looking Piquet walking back. He's not impressed. It's been disappointing for him. He was really looking in for a very good result there.
It was 1978, in fact, where Nelson Piquet had his very first Grand Prix in an Ensign. So, and he's won this race 3 times. So, yeah, although he has no special fondness for the track, it's so far over the years been very good for him, but not today.
No, that was particularly sad there for Piquet. There's Leto moving out of the way neatly for Nannini to come through. Senna's still there. And as I say, we're two-thirds distance now, and really the big question marks have got to be, we're looking at either a Benetton, very unfortunate, a Benetton or a McLaren win here, and you know, who really has been smart between the 2 sets of C's or the 1 set of B's on these cars? The cars themselves look pretty closely matched.
Very much so. Let's go down to John Bisignano.
Steve Medincia with now Benetton Formula team coordinator. What's the situation out on the track? Your driver is, of course, leading the fabulous new Ford V8s, doing very well down these long straightaways. Are they going to risk bringing him in at this late stage?
Everything's running according to plan, and obviously we feel the pressure behind us, but there's no plans to bring him in at all. We're just going to run it straight on out and take it right into victory circle, hopefully.
The team chose to go out on the harder compound B tire. There's only a few laps to go, 15, 12 laps to go. Will it be able to hold up these latter laps as far as performance-wise, or is it going to get eaten up here?
Sandro's called in, and he thinks he can go the rest of the distance, so...
Well, he's the man that knows.
It's his call.
A lot of smiling faces down here in the Benetton pits.
I think we're seeing Senna now. Nannini is now working hard. Senna is going to go by, I think. Nannini's had his very strong performance, very decisively swept back to the right. Senna taking the line for that 3rd chicane. It'll be interesting to see just whether Nannini was holding Senna up, or now that Senna's got some clear road, can he pull ahead and take advantage of that 2nd set of tyres that he's got? A rip-off. Did you see that left hand come out of Senna? they have thin films of cellophane across the front of the visor, normally 2 sheets, which they can pull off at an opportune moment. And there was no point of Senna pulling off that rip-off whilst he was following the Nini, because every engine throws out a little bit of oil and a little bit of muck and stuff from behind the car. But once he's ahead, he's got some clear road now, hopefully for the last 12 laps of this race. And Senna wants to take full advantage of having a clear visor for that amount of time. If we look down the field, some interesting things now are beginning to show up. In 6th place, we've had Ivan Capelli in 6th place there. Once again, getting the march up into getting the Leighton House car up into the points. We've also got the 2 LaRousse cars driven by Suzuki and Bernard.
And then we see a replay of the pass. Very simple, didn't dog him at all, just simply came up. And it's interesting, once again, he's been sitting back there for so long, you know, and for so long the rap against Ayrton Senna was that he was a little too emotional and a little too quick to jump at an opportunity, whether it was there or not. In this particular situation, he seemed content to sit back there, bide his time until, for whatever reason, he felt it was the time, the moment to go, and he went ahead in a perfectly safe location with no traffic around him, made the move, took back the lead, and is now continuing to lead here at the German Grand Prix. Let's give you our standings as we've got them right now. Ayrton Senna continuing to lead. Alessandro Nannini now just about a second or so back. Gerhard Berger, the other McLaren, is about 6 seconds behind. And then Alain Prost is continuing on, the only Ferrari left, in about 4th position, 20 seconds back. We'll be back.
I never saw you hit so well. I'm here in 3, you're here in 1. Ah, Bill.
Yeah, how'd you do, Jack?
In 3, out in 3. What are you doing? You're playing your best golf, and every time I look up, you're staring at TV. Saturday cartoons make you so good?
It's a special Golf Digest instructional video. The Golf Digest schools pulled 10 instant golf lessons from their 10-cassette collection.
Graphics, instruction, real professional advice, 10 instant lessons?
It's a half hour of the best stuff for a golfer.
It's priceless.
It's free.
Free?
With my subscription to Golf Digest.
Get a full year of Golf Digest for $19.77. Call 800-367-5800 now and get our free half-hour instructional video with your paid subscription. Call 800-367-5800 now.
Planning. Where would I get the capital to start this business with my daughter? By investing for the long haul. And forget full commission brokers. I call Charles Schwab. Munis, mutual funds, blue chips, and I save plenty with Schwab's low commissions. Every day I tell my daughter, think long-term. Make your own decisions. Be your own man.
We give you more ways to succeed.
Choices. Dad's conservative, and that's okay, but I'm after high return.
At Schwab, I can be aggressive. I just bought some high-growth mutual funds and an undervalued stock I know will take off, all by computer and at Schwab's low commissions.
Dad says, plan ahead, get there first. Maybe that's why my name's on the door first.
We give you more ways to succeed.
Friday night, the Pirates face the Phillies and the Athletics take on the Angels. Or in some areas, the Red Sox battle the Tigers and the Mariners meet the Twins. Friday night at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Well, today it is Germany in the Formula One race here, but in just 2 weeks, it will be the Grand Prix of Hungary from Budapest live. That'll be Sunday, August 12th. Of course, Bob Barsha, David Hobbs, and John Visignano will all be back together again for the reunion there. Meanwhile, this man, Ayrton Senna, leads here in Germany after having sat behind Alessandro Nannini for some time. Now he is not only taking the lead back, he's running away with it. He has been slowly but surely stretching out the lead. Initially, it was just a second or so. Now it's a little over 2 seconds. Just enough that he's making his point known, that he is taking control of this race. And frankly, unless something happens, it seems very unlikely he's going to let it go.
No, I think that's right, Rick. I think Senna is now, he should be okay. I mean, Nannini was not too far behind there. That's Mike Cranofus, Ford Motorsport director there. We can see in the inset. They're coming out onto the long straight now after the first chicane. Perhaps worthwhile considering. Just think about the braking performances of these cars. As these guys approach 200 miles an hour. They're going to be getting hard on the brakes. They're going to be going down to 50 miles an hour, and that's going to take them, as I say, just 3 seconds to lose that amount of speed. 3 seconds and 3.5 G. Accelerating hard now. Your car at home may do 0 to 50 miles an hour in 7 or 8 seconds. These cars do 0 to 150 miles an hour in 7 or 8 seconds. That's the sort of performance we're talking about. And into the second chicane there. Through the second chicane for Senna.
11 cars out of the race at this point. Only 15 cars remaining in this battle to the end with about 9 laps. And there we try to go aboard with Derek Warwick. Sometimes the pictures don't quite work as well as we'd like.
And out of that third chicane, once again into 5th gear. And you see just above his gear lever hand, when he changes gear again, there's a little round knob. That's to change the brake balance. And he may well have been doing that as the fuel load lightens to keep the front and rear wheels braking equally. And you can see how he has to balance the throttle through that series of corners. It's not a question of just coming in, jamming on the brakes and flooring it again. He's got to balance the amount of grip he's got left. You just heard the chink as he went over the curb on the exit there. And you can see that his rev counter too, rather than being a round dial, don't bother looking for it, it's not there. What he has got is that strip, that green strip you see. It's an LCD rev counter. It probably begins at something like 8,000 revs, and it just spans from 8,000 perhaps to 14. And that's what he's going to be using.
Back to the front, Ayrton Senna leading this race, the German Grand Prix, with just about 8 laps to go. His lead now over Alessandro Nannini has stretched out to about 4 seconds. It looks like there will be a battle developing between Nannini and Berger in just a few moments. Let's go down to John Bisignano with an update on the Pirro situation.
Rick, we have some good news on Emmanuel Pirro. He has been treated here at the track, and they've taken him away in ambulance. They haven't used the helicopter, which means that he's not in any life-threatening situation whatsoever. He's in very good shape, except complaining of severe neck pains. They've taken him into the Heidelberg University Hospital, one of the best hospitals in all of Europe, for some very sophisticated x-rays. And he should be back at the track, hopefully, before the truck pulls out of here. They're going to check him out and send him back here as soon as possible. But he is, at this moment, reported in excellent condition.
There's Derek Warwick with the leader, Ayrton Senna, coming up behind.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice now if we could have a look at Derek from the in-car. We might be able to see just what it's like being there, and here we go. Now, Warwick now will know that he's got Senna behind him. Warwick will know that. He can't do anything about it at the moment. He doesn't want to hold Senna up, but he's just getting on with his own race, minding his own business. And he won't mind either here. I don't think Senna can come by here. But what we can, there he is, he checks his mirrors, he registers where Senna is, and he'll do the same on the next straight. But this time we'll see what the relative speed difference of that McLaren Honda and the Lotus Lamborghini is. Let's have a look. The blue flag went out. Are we going to see a McLaren come by on the right? And there it goes. Look how close. He's just 5 or 6 feet behind at that point.
Ooh, look at that. And then, so I guess it looks like Derek Warwick was already beginning his braking, whereas Senna was starting his braking a little later. At first it looked like he was starting to pull away.
Yeah, actually what happened there was that Senna braked a little bit later, or Warwick braked a little bit earlier to give Senna some space through that corner. And you can see what the performance differential is like between these cars.
Warwick right now sitting in the 8th position on this track. He is talked about the fact that he has been taking a lot more risk of late because he just feels that the car is not doing what he feels the car should be able to do. And as a result, it's his responsibility to try to accomplish something. And he talked about the fact that in both qualifying sessions, on Friday and on Saturday, he was taking risks. But we sat there and watched him during the qualifying session on Saturday and doing things that he said he wouldn't ordinarily do because he feels he really doesn't have much of a choice.
No, Lotus have got a particular problem making those qualifiers work for the lap, even more than other people, and that's really been quite a problem for them in qualifying.
And Lotus, a lot of rumors going around that the team is on the verge of being sold. So a lot of, and also this concern that they may be losing their sponsor. A lot of concern. There you see Gerhard Berger getting by Jean Alesi. We'll be back in just a few moments for the final 7 laps or so from Hockenheim. Don't go away.
For best results, Yokohama tires should be used in the following conditions. Yokohama high-performance tires. They're always in season.
Special factory-authorized sale. The Alpine 7800 high-powered FM/AM CD player. 16 watts per channel. 8 times oversampling. Anti-skip laser tracking. Only at your participating Alpine dealer.
I got the job.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So, who told you about the National Business Employment Weekly? Who told you it has hundreds of high-paying jobs open all across the country? Professional, technical, managerial.
I thought I told you about it. How the articles help you get a job. Write sharper resumes. Have better interviews.
No. I told you, remember? How to get along with your boss, get a raise, get promoted.
Let me see. You told me about the great jobs in the National Business Employment Weekly.
And the help in landing them. And doing better on the job.
So I really owe my new job to you?
Well.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Get the National Business Employment Weekly at your newsstand, or order by credit card and get 8 issues by first-class mail for $35. Call 800-372-3000. 800-372-3000. The National Business Employment Weekly.
Don't make a career move without it.
Back here in Hockenheim, here's John Visigliano with a track back.
All the high-tech science from a modern Grand Prix racer, and even the talents of the drivers, have but one way to be transferred down to the track, and that's through the vehicle's tires. What the teams are looking for is that perfect balance between grip and endurance. Now, because of a very competitive threat from Pirelli this year, Goodyear has gone to the ABC approach. They actually bring 3 types of tires to every Grand Prix weekend. The A-type compound is very hard, does not develop a great deal of grip, but has no problem going the length of a Grand Prix. The B tire is very popular with drivers and team managers. It has much more grip than the A, should be able to go a race distance because of its endurance. But if you really want the last half second out of your chassis, out of your equipment, you must choose the C-type compound. Very soft compound, develops tremendous grip, but the tire must be managed throughout the Grand Prix to actually finish the race. The last thing a driver wants is to be in the closing laps and have worn tires all the way around. When it comes right down to it, the success of an entire Grand Prix weekend can come down to how well the teams know their ABCs.
One other intriguing little note that Goodyear does, Goodyear uses nitrogen in the tires. Rather than filling them up with regular air or oxygen, they use nitrogen because, frankly, it's a little more stable. It does not have any moisture content in it. They're concerned that if they pump in air, even purified air, there's always that small amount of moisture in it. The moisture can affect the actual pressure within the tire, and they have to be right on with the pressure. They can't have a window of more than, say, 2 pounds in the front or the rear tires. And by using nitrogen, it's stable. There's no problems like oxygen might have a problem with exploding. This is simply a pure, stable source that doesn't have that moisture content. And there we see John Alesi beginning to slow down.
Yeah, it looks like Alesi has a problem there. He's been running in 9th place so far, but it looks like he's on the way out now. So it's still Senna pulling away now from the Nini in 2nd place, with Berger now trying very hard to close the gap. He's just got 4 laps to do it. He's 4 seconds behind, and there's no doubt that both McLaren and Berger would dearly love that 1-2. We've also got Boutsen up now in 6th place behind Patrese in the other Williams car, with also Derek Warwick inside the top 10 in the Lotus Lamborghini, with Ivan Capelli there too in 7th place in his Leighton House car. We've lost the LaRousse Lamborghini cars of Suzuki and Bernard, which have been running in good form at Silverstone. Those cars were in fact 4th and 6th place at Silverstone to score points. but for some reason have dropped out of a top 10 place, both cars in the last few laps. Rounding off the top 10, there's Cathy in the first of the Arrows cars, and Arrows are the manufacturer, or the chassis manufacturer, who are due to get the new Porsche V12 that's making its Formula One debut next year.
And you have to think that the Ford people have got to be very excited with Nannini's performance today, because it is more than just a case of trying to hold on with the tire game. It's actually having the power to stick with it. Let's go down to John Bisignano. We've got a Lacey in the pits.
John Alesi moving very slowly because he's coasting, no engine noise whatsoever on this blue and white Tyrrell. The team goes to work on the tires in somewhat of a futile approach to service the young French driver. He's undone the seat belts, and Joanne, the team manager, is now signaling him to come out of the cars. Jean Alesi, who has really set the Formula One circus on fire this year as far as being the strongest of the young lions out of the German Grand Prix.
About 4 laps to go right now as Ayrton Senna goes across the line. By the way, you might notice that there's no cigarette advertisement on the cars here in Germany. They're very strict about that. And as a result, a lot of the cigarette manufacturers have to remove their insignias from the cars. And there we've got a problem with J.J. Leto's car.
Yeah, he's got the rear bodywork. That's the bodywork covering the engine there, but it's obviously worked loose. It's flapping around. It's going to catch the air. It's probably not going to upset the car a great deal, and I'd imagine he's going to carry on in that configuration, particularly with only 3 laps to go.
The only concern is could it get the air get caught underneath and actually blow that cowling back?
Well, that's a possibility, but I think a risk that I'd certainly be prepared to take is unlikely to do too much to the car, because the glass fiber of that would just tear off with the phenomenal aerodynamic forces that would actually occur.
Yeah, but what they're behind him?
Yeah, I don't think that's too much of a problem. It'll just sail away in the air like a big glider for a little bit. But what's going to be interesting now is, really, can Berger make any impression on that second place Nannini? And I don't think he can. I mean, it really is not looking as if he's going to do it. He's only got 3 laps to make up 4 seconds, and they've both completed the last lap within a lap time of within 1/100th of a second. They really are incredibly closely matched at the moment.
Not only that, but Senna's continuing to stretch out his lead. It's now to about 7 seconds over Nannini, but the distance between Nannini and Berger is about the same. So as you pointed out, their lap times are so identical. They're running almost in tandem, although they are about 4 seconds apart. And then another 31 seconds back, a man we haven't talked about too much today, is Alain Prost, and he is sitting in the 4th place, followed by Riccardo Patrese, about 5 seconds back behind Alain Prost, and then Terry Boutsen, who is now 33 seconds back by virtue of the long pit stop. Now, interesting to point out, with about 3 laps or so to go, as disappointed, 2 laps at this point to go, as disappointing as a 4th place finish would be for Alain Prost, it's also important that he's going to get those points, and right now he needs that.
Well, that's right. It's important for Prost to get those points. He's leading the championship, but he won't be leading it after this race if the current positions stand, because Senna's going to get 9. Prost, for his 4th place, is going to get 3 points. Prost was only 2 ahead, so that will put Senna 4 ahead, much to his relief. But more significantly, and that's a cloud of smoke. Did we just see that out of the back of the Leighton House car of Capelli in 7th place? He may not make it to the finish. But more importantly, and I think significantly, Prost was confident of his car's performance. We saw that. But clearly, you know, he's now 32 seconds behind Berger in 3rd spot, and there's no way that this can be called anything like a good level of performance for Ferrari. So there's going to be a lot of head-scratching back down in Maranello at the end of this race to try and see why they were so far off the pace on a track which is supposed to be very good for high-performance engines. Ferrari, of course, have got their semi-automatic 7-speed gearbox with the electronic control on the steering wheel, the sort of thing that really should aid straight-line performance by getting that last 1/10 of a second out of acceleration. The combination of that V12 and that gearbox and the talents of Prost don't seem to have done the job, so there'll be a lot of questions as to why. And there we've got Berger. He's still behind that Ligier there of Larini. He's got to get by that to get a clear run. No, he's not going to do it. Now, that really was the last chance he had of getting on terms with Nannini for the flag.
So this will slow him down through that section. John, I understand you're down there with a question.
Dr. Palmer, I wanted to ask you, is not it the fact that McLaren has actually gotten faster? Ferrari hasn't gotten slower. They're so dominant. Are they the best team you've ever driven for, ever been associated with?
There's no doubt that McLaren are the best team that I've been associated with. I do a lot of testing with them. I'm going over to Japan next week running with them, and I should be running the V12 Honda engine, the engine that Honda have brought out in retaliation to Ferrari's increased level of performance. I should be running that at Monza in the middle of August.
What is it like Last year you drove the Tyrrell. For those of us who have never sat in that cockpit, how is it so different than every other race car on the track?
It's the way that the whole package comes together. You know, the way that the McLaren go about developing and running their race team, they look a long way ahead. If there's anything they can do to make those cars perform better for longer, they will do it. They do not start with a budget and see what that will buy them. They start with what they need, and then they go and find the budget to do that. And that's a very fundamental and a very fortunate way in which McLaren can operate. Senna now, on his last lap, he's going to be very relieved. We've had 3 Grand Prix with Prost taking the honours for Ferrari. Senna really desperately wants that World Championship. McLaren, Ron Dennis's McLaren too, will be pleased that this time Senna can be under no doubt that the McLaren is the car of the race, the car of the present period of Grand Prix, because Dennis is trying to persuade Senna to sign for another 2 or 3 year contract. And of course, the stronger that Dennis's hand is, the better the McLaren goes, the stronger that Dennis's hand will be.
As they enter the stadium complex, this is it, the last few turns for Ayrton Senna. By the way, with this victory, it will be number 24, and that will tie him with the great Juan Manuel Fangio. With 24 victories.
Yes, I believe that Senna here, watching him take his 24th, he's just coming around to take his 24th Grand Prix victory, really is, I think, the fastest Formula One driver there's ever been. And there he goes, raising his arm in absolute joy. He's thrilled to take that Grand Prix victory to put him back at the head of the World Championship table.
And the important thing to point out, too, there's got to be a level of relief with Senna knowing that the team has risen to the challenge. The fact that, as you mentioned, Ferrari had created the challenge. As Derek Warwick going across the finish line, Ferrari had created the challenge, and yet McLaren was able to live up to it.
Well, yes, that certainly is true in the hands of Senna. Nannini backed off quite considerably on that last lap, but not so much that he managed to retain that second place, but Berger closed up to within 2 seconds. Berger still pushing hard, just in case Nannini could go off and make some silly mistake.
There you see Prost finishing. There's also Riccardo Patrese right behind him. That is the race. We'll be back with more, though, from Hockenheim after this.
Now, how'd you like to make a bet? If you like going to where the action doesn't stop, to places like Las Vegas, the Caribbean, Atlantic City, I'll bet this Players Club card can save you big on your hotel rooms and air travel. You'll get airfares guaranteed to be lower than any available scheduled fare. I'll bet we'll get you lower room rates at our hotels than you'll find in any newspaper ad, or we'll pay the difference. And I'm talking places like Caesars and the Sands in Atlantic City, and right here at the New Riviera in Las Vegas. I'm talking up to 60% off. And not just weekdays and off-season. I'm talking prime time, baby. You pay up to 50% less for shows, always 25% less for meals and drinks. Call Players Club now. The information free, and so's the call. You can bet on it. Players Club. It's a sure thing.
New members get 2 free nights in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, or Lacayon Beach, Bahamas when the club books their flights. Call toll-free 1-800-554-9000.
To show how Firestone Firehawk tires perform, we occasionally take some of them for a little weekend drive. At the toughest tracks across the country, we put our Firestone Firehawk street performance tires, including the same SB radials you can buy, to the test in racing. Over 1 million miles now, and still counting. Firestone, tires that meet the test.
Great weekend.
Sure went fast.
The Denver Broncos try to achieve that one super season. The Seattle Seahawks, this year they mean business. The Broncos battle the Seahawks at the American Bowl, live from Tokyo Saturday night on ESPN. Friday night, the Pirates face the Phillies and the Athletics take on the Angels. Or in some areas, the Red Sox battle the Tigers and the Mariners meet the Twins. Friday night at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Tomorrow, the tiny towns that surround the village of Hockenheim will return to normal as the thousands who have come here for this race start heading out. We will miss the scenery, and of course, we will also miss the hospitality. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Grand Prix of Germany was brought to you today by Mobil. Mobil One Synthetic Motor Oil. Isn't your car worth the extra protection? And by MicroAge Computer Systems for your business. Well, there they are walking back to the pits after completing the Grand Prix of Germany. Ayrton Senna getting his 24th victory of his career. Alessandro Nannini, you see him there off to the right. He managed to finish second in a very fine performance with that new Ford engine. Gerhard Berger in third. Alain Prost, a very quiet day for him, 36 seconds back behind Berger, followed by Riccardo Patrese and Thierry Boutsen. Both the Williams cars, once again, fairly uneventful days, but finishing in the points with 5th and 6th positions, and that has to be a good feeling for the team.
Yeah, I think out of that top 6 there, we're going to have 2 guys who are going to be pleased with their day's work, and that's Senna and Nannini. Berger's going to be disappointed that he wasn't right up there with Senna. Prost is going to be disappointed at the level of performance of his Ferrari. And there's no doubt that the Williams team, too, will realise that there's still a lot of work to be done for them with their V10 Renault engine Grand Prix car, with Patrese and Boutsen really never in contention. This was, though, a particularly important Grand Prix for McLaren. The last 3 Grand Prix, as we said, have been won by Prost and the Ferrari. And had Ferrari gone on to win this one, too, it really would have put a vast amount of pressure on McLaren. Fortunately, though, not only has Senna won, he's done so in pretty emphatic form, certainly as far as Ferrari are concerned, which means that we really are in for a fantastic second half to the World Championship Grand Prix season.
Especially with Nigel Mansell yesterday talking about the fact that this is one of those circuits, while they're competing, they don't feel they have the edge, unlike some other circuits like Estoril, Australia, Spain, where they think they are going to be able to come in there and actually be able to go at it. We also should explain why these gentlemen are walking back. They simply don't feel the need to go complete one more long lap.
Well, this is it. You've got a long circuit lap here. We've said it's 4 miles. But don't forget, too, that, you know, these cars want to run. They want to start this race with the minimum amount of fuel on. And if the team crew have got to put on sufficient fuel to do another whole lap, that's going to take perhaps 1/10 or half a tenth of a second a lap. And it all adds up. And in an ideal world, the cars will stop just, well, pretty soon after the